Hello, folks. Welcome back to another chillin' installment from the Winter Wilderness series, where strange encounters lurk beneath layers of frost and snow. In this compilation of odd and eerie experiences, we delve even deeper into the dark realms of mysteries delivered by our listeners. From the inexplicable howls echoing through the glacial night to ghostly shadows dancing amidst the frozen trees, these tales paint an eerie portrait of the winter wilderness that continues to descend upon us in the coming months. So here you go. Story 1. I had always found solace in the raw beauty of the winter wilderness of Colorado. As a park ranger, I cherished the solitude that came with the endless snowy fields and towering evergreen trees. But one winter, an eerie incident unfolded that shook me to the core and left an indelible mark on my psyche. It was a bitterly cold night, and I was patrolling the Rocky Mountains National Park alone, bundled up in countless layers of clothing. The only sound that reached my ears was the haunting howl of the wind as it whipped through the trees. Shadows danced in the pale moonlight that loomed overhead, crafting grotesque figures that seemed to leer at me from the surrounding darkness. Suddenly, a gut-churning shiver ran down my spine, and I felt an inexplicable presence watching my every move. Ignoring the feeling, I continued my patrol, but my unease grew with every passing step. As I arrived at the deserted campsite that I was called in to check on, I felt the adrenaline coursing through my veins. The fire smoldered, its only remnants being scattered embers and fragments of something like hair. Cautiously, I brushed away the snow, revealing a name tag buried beneath it. It read, Park Ranger John. Well, my breath caught in my throat as I realized that this was the same exact name tag I had lost 2 weeks back. The coincidence was chilling, leaving me to ponder the implications. Well, days turned into weeks, and the odd occurrences continued. My patrol routes were frequently beset by strange footprints leading to nowhere, and whispers that only the wind seemed to carry. I would find pieces of equipment missing, only to stumble upon them in inexplicable locations. It was as if an invisible force reveled in taunting me, leaving me little room to deny the supernatural nature of these happenings. With each passing night, my sleep grew fitful, plagued by vivid nightmares and a perpetual feeling of being watched. Isolated in the vastness of the winter wilderness, I couldn't shake the sinking sensation that something dark and malevolent lurked beyond the shadows. Its icy grip tightened with every evolving coincidence. To this day, I can't shake off the disturbing thought that these eerie occurrences were more than just mere coincidences. Every winter, as the snow blankets the wilderness, I can't help but wonder what malevolent entity resides within, patiently awaiting its next chance to prey upon an unsuspecting victim. Thank you, Ranger John. Story 2. As I trudged through the thick snowfall, the biting cold of the Alaskan winter clawed at every inch of my exposed skin. My companion Jake and I had ventured to the most remote reaches of the wilderness, seeking solace and tranquility. Little did we know that we were about to stumble upon an encounter that would forever haunt our dreams. In the distance, we spotted a dilapidated cabin, long abandoned and slowly succumbing to the unforgiving elements. The atmosphere grew increasingly eerie as we approached, our visible breath mingling with the eerie silence. Through the frost-covered windows, I caught a glimpse of something deeply unsettling. Strange, ragged furs draped around the room, and the scent of decay lingered in the frigid air. Curiosity drove us closer, and as we pushed open the creaking door, our senses were immediately assaulted by an overwhelming stench. The sight before us, row upon row, meticulously arranged animal bones. Deer, elk, bear, and even the remains of mountain lions lay strewn across the floor. Besides the macabre collection, a journal lay half hidden under a layer of dust. Trembling, I picked it up and began reading its pages. The entry spoke of twisted obsession, an insatiable hunger for power. Scrawled on the pages were the chilling words, quote, "I am one with the wilderness. Its creatures are mine to claim," end quote. Well, as you might imagine, goosebumps raced up and down my spine, and an uneasy feeling in the pit of my stomach intensified. With every turn of the page, the author's maniacal words revealed a descent into madness. Desperate to escape the clutches of the sinister cabin, while Jake and I stumbled outside, grasping for fresh air. As we quickly made our way back through the snow-covered wilderness, every snap of a branch, every rustle of the leaves became a haunting echo in our minds. We couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, pursued by the very wilderness that the deranged author had claimed as his own. The shadows seemed to dance and writhe, whispering secrets that we could only hear, tormenting us with their ceaseless presence. Days turned into weeks, yet the unsettling encounter in those remote reaches of Alaska stayed with us. Our once adventurous spirits were forever dampened by the icy grip of that cabin, its secrets etched permanently into our souls. No longer could we find solace and tranquility in the wild, for the unknown terrors lurking just out of sight had forever tainted our perception of the world around us. Thank you, Devin and Jake. Story 3. Hello, Rusty. Well, here's an experience I had last winter. I thought I'd share with you and your listeners. Here's my experience as I recall it. Well, as the winter evening settled in and the dark clouds loomed above, I ventured out for a peaceful walk with my loyal companion, my dog Colby. The air felt thick that night with an eerie stillness, almost as if nature itself had held its breath in anticipation for what was to come. Well, as we strolled down the deserted path, a strange sensation tingled at the back of my neck, causing me to glance uneasily over my shoulder. And Colby, well, he was on edge as well, constantly darting back and forth, glancing into the woods nearby. But to my shock, I noticed a faint glow emerging from behind a dense wall of trees. Alerting my dog with a low whistle, we turned our attention towards the source. There, emerging from the shadows, were a cluster of unidentified flying objects, silently advancing toward us. Each object resembled a sleek metallic saucer, shimmering with an otherworldly glow. Their form was barely visible against the darkening sky, leaving an unsettling and indescribable presence in their wake. As these uncanny UFOs hovered closer, The thin veil of silence was shattered only by the distant rumblings of an approaching storm. The hair on my dog's back stood on end, mirroring the unease that crept within inside me. Strangely, there were no lights or sounds emanating from this eerie squadron. It was as if they were stealthily gliding through the air, observing our every move with unnerving curiosity. Attempting to rationalize their presence, I sped up our pace. Yet the UFOs matched our every stride, persistently maintaining their distance. The once familiar path now felt foreign and unwelcoming, as if nature itself conspired against our escape from these intruders. My mind raced with unanswerable questions. Who piloted these unknown objects? What was their purpose for seeking me out during this desolate winter evening? As the storm overhead grew, casting an ominous darkness upon the landscape, while the UFOs retreated one by one, vanishing into the chaos of wind and rain. Although they disappeared, their unsettling presence lingered in the atmosphere. Shaken but relieved, my dog and I hastened our steps homeward, haunted by the surreal encounter and the lingering questions that may forever remain unanswered. That's my experience. Thank you, Rusty. Chet and Colby. Story 4. As I embarked on a long drive through the desolate stretches of Wyoming one winter day in February, I couldn't help but feel a sense of adventure mixed in with a hint of trepidation. The snow-covered landscape stretched endlessly before me, the only sign of life being the occasional isolated farmhouse. Little did I know that this journey would soon take an unexpected turn. At the first stop, I noticed a figure in the distance, standing by the side of the highway. The hitchhiker was dressed in tattered clothes, his unkempt hair whipping in the icy wind. There was something eerily familiar about this guy. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had seen him before. Ignoring the unease gnawing at me, I continued on, putting the strange encounter out of my mind. However, to my bewilderment, the same hitchhiker appeared at the second stop. This time, his cold, piercing eyes bore into mine, as if he knew my deepest secrets. His presence felt like a dark cloud hanging over my every move. A chill ran down my spine as I hurriedly got back into my car from the rest area. I couldn't resist the temptation to confront the mysterious hiker as I arrived at the third stop. Bracing myself against the biting wind, I cautiously approached the stranger. His thin lips curled into a chilling smile, his voice carrying a haunting familiarity as he whispered, "We meet again." Paralyzed by fear, I stumbled back into my car. Who was this enigmatic stranger, and why did he seem to be following me? Well, as the sun began to drop, darkness engulfed the desolate landscape. Thoughts of the hitchhiker haunted my mind with every passing mile, weaving their way into my every thought. Terrified, I focused on reaching my destination, speeding along the empty roads. Finally, as I pulled into the last stop before reaching safety, I let out a sigh of relief. The hitchhiker was nowhere to be seen. Although I reached my destination unharmed, the haunting image of that stranger lingered in my memory. To this day, even as time passes, the lingering questions remain. Was he a mere figment of my imagination? Or did that freezing winter day mark an encounter with something explicable? The mystery of the creepy hitchhiker will forever haunt the remote reaches of Wyoming in my mind, reminding me that some experiences cannot be easily explained or forgotten. Thanks for sharing my story, Rusty. I appreciate it. Bill. Story 5. Hi, Rusty. My experience reminded me of the story you once told about two guys who went out for a hike in the middle of nowhere and discovered pieces of an old boat scattered throughout the woods. Well, my experience is not too different from theirs. I was a seasoned sailor. My boat was my pride and joy, and I took her out every few days or so. But one summer night, as I lay in my berth, I heard an eerie whisper drifting through the air. It was as if the voices of the night were warning me of an impending doom. I brushed off the feeling, convincing myself it was just the wind playing tricks on my mind. However, little did I know, that night would be the last time I would see my boat at the docks. Well, the next morning I stumbled down to the marina, feeling a sense of unease. I hadn't slept much the night before, as something was weighing heavily on my mind, but I couldn't figure out what that something was. My pulse quickened as I approached the spot where my boat should have been, only to find emptiness. Well, I looked everywhere, asked a few of the other folks that were down at the marina, but nobody had seen my boat. Panic consumed me, along with anger, as I suspected it had been stolen. I immediately reported the disappearance to the authorities, but days turned into weeks and weeks into months, and still no trace of my beloved vessel. It was as if the sea had swallowed her up. But then, one winter's day, I received a call from the authorities. My boat had been found, but not where anyone could have possibly imagined. Military planes conducting exercises over the dense forests of New York had stumbled upon it, nearly 200 miles inland. Now, how in the hell did it end up there in the dead of winter remained a mystery to me and to everybody involved. No signs of forced transport or tread upon the snowy ground surrounding it. It was in pristine condition, exactly how I left it, yet its presence in such a desolate place sent shivers down my spine. Experts and investigators were also perplexed, unable to provide any logical explanation. Whispers of supernatural forces and cursed waters haunted the minds of the locals. But as for me, the eerie whisper I had once disregarded now echoed in my nightmares. The question of how the vessel ended up there will always haunt my mind. I am in the process of reaching out to some folks who may be able to help remove it, but until then, well, it's still out there. Well, that's my story, and I appreciate you sharing it. I'll let you know if anything changes, Rusty. Thank you, Lonnie. And there you have it. These odd and eerie experiences leave us with a sense of unease and discomfort, and may even give us a glimpse into a world we just don't understand or comprehend yet. But that's the draw for many of us, the insatiable appetite to scratch that itch of curiosity. Thanks for listening, and you'll hear from us soon. Good night.